Bonjour. Mangani kayo Bryan Vigil shishi. Apache kayo the day of kind shishi. Kutsuye the Bryan Vigil sharko la. And bako grandma red because good morning, good afternoon. My name is Bryan Vigil. I said my name was a person that counts people, and Oyeron stream. I'm the Mountain and Valley people. You say I come from a place called Jicarilla Apache Nation, and that's where the two rocks come together. That's where I'm from. Well, since the beginning of time, I could tell you that us Athabascans came into this area and was told that, and they had two gods, Kowachi and Nianasgani, and they talked about a lot of things, and they said that we were here when there was still ice age, and I was told to go to a place that way, and it was west of Durango now, and there was a place there. There was a shelter place. It was an overhang. There was a basket 1 era and a basket 2 era, and there was evidence of us there. Went east. There was a lookout point. They said that the people were up there looking for land. So one day, he said that they built a fire in this little silo there. That was a signal place. So there's smoke. So the people left, abandoned that place, and moved out. And they went down to it's right now, it's a little town called Crete. And before they get to Crete, there's a place they went to, which they call Pyramid Mountain now. They call it Sayat Aikai, they call it a mountain with a sharp point. He said beside that was a wall with a door in it. And it was all covered with ice and snow still. So the leader went through that door. So to this day, we say, you don't go back to where you come from. You always go forward. So they get down the Crete and towards Del Norte. And there was a place right now that we visit where it has a hole in the rock. And the white men call it the Natural Arts. It's about 6.5 miles north as the crow flies from Del Norte, Colorado. And there's a place where we call a rendezvous place. And we traveled with the Utes before, and there's a lot of drawings on the rocks, and the same as what was over there by Durango, which was called the Fall Creek Rock Shelter. And that's why the beginning of the Rio Grande became one of our sacred rivers, Kutsoy, and that's one of them. So as the years went by, they said that finally Nianasgani came among us again, and then we went to the top of Mount Blanca. I forget that name. It means the last tooth, molder tooth. They call it, Navajo call it Sistutchin, because I got a black belt. And he said that Nianasgani stood up on top of that mountain, facing south. And he said, from here, this way, you make a living, natakatre. From here, this way, natakatre. So the one that came to the west was the Navajos, later called the Navajos. But we call it Ntane, and which what means is the one that grows stuff, vegetables, what they call the Three Sisters. And us Apaches went that way. But a lot of people call us, Hazane, the people that emerged. So that's the story of that part, how we made there. And we were told that they gave us 4 rivers: the Arkansas River, the Rio Grande, the Canadian River, and the Pecos River. Arkansas River is named Napishti. This young lady's father told me the name of that. It had a story on it. And he said there was an encampment below Buena Vista. There was a finger that comes out here. They were camped there. The other side was a big rock of the river, across the river. Not yet Peshti. And he said, so that was the name, they named that river. It's that across there, they're split. So they call that river that, not Peshti. So years went by, they gave us another name. As I told you what the name of the Rio Grande already. And the other one was the Canadian River. Just that. So people used to go down the river, and it clear goes into Oklahoma, where the land is red. So they said if you're lost in that area, you follow that red river back, and they call it Kulchi, which means reddish water. So that is the name of that Canadian River. So the other one, the Pecos River, they call that one Kois Atan as Lean, which translates to the old river. Ko is water. Is means long time ago. It's an ancient river. So that is that he said that Ninasgani said, you stay in these 4 rivers, you'll never go dry. So through the years that the grandpas told me, there used to be a lot of people there. Back in '58, in La Jera area, there was a lot of grandpas. And they're all gone. And they used to have a big circle, and my brother built a fire. My job was to go to the well, get some water, and give it with a dipper to those people. And I sat there by my dad, and he bossed me around. I was the gopher. I kind of didn't like it, but my mom says you can learn things because you're energetic, and all these different things that happened through the years is because I learned, and all the other people in that circle. But when we moved to Chama, I think it was in '60 or '61. That's when he talked about the river a lot, which is the Rio Grande. The Rio Grande is the boundary to the Navajos. They live west of the Chama River. It's the Navajos. There's a place up here by Bocosa. They call it not what the white man call Navajo Peak. It's the other one, the one that looks like a head. That one, and a place called White Flint Mountain, which the white people call Bernal, was the boundary. And there's a place they call where the Navajo fell down. It's Aninaklushe. There's a story behind that too. This way it was the Navajos. Now, they say they moved the rope, what they call boundary, 3 times. First it was way over there by Bronco Peak. Then they moved it to the Rio Grande, and then they moved it again to Blanco River. Now it's on this side. The places that my dad took us, one of them is on the other side of Denver, just by Sterling. There was a turnoff there. And there was a big, probably about 3 football fields of the certain plant, which we call Becain. And he said, this was put here for us. And then he said that this went to the north, and he said that's the Platte River. That was our northern boundary years ago. He said back in the 1500s, he said. And the other side was our enemy. There was the Cheyennes, the Arapahoes, and the Lakotas. Then to the east, he was talking about the Pawnees and the Comanches. My grandpa and then they talked about the ration that they used to get in Abiquiu. and they brought the rations for the Utes too, because back in that time, there was what they called the gold rush, 1849 area time, that they were harassing the gold diggers. So they put the ration down there to get them away from going back up there and harassing the white people. And then they brought soldiers. And then in 1868, they got together and they said they needed to make a reservation for the Utes so they won't be harassing the gold diggers and the silver mines and stuff. So after that, I call it, the Utes and the Apaches used to go together, camp together, and then they told Jicarillas, go to Washington and ask for some land. Then I read, there's some record that I was reading that we could have had 4 different reservation spots. This is the last one we're on now, and that's the last time they tried to put us on a reservation. And the first one was Maxwell land grant that I remember, and it was bought by the British people in 1870. And you know how the Manganis are, or Bilicanas, they say no trespassing right away. So they called the soldiers to get us off that land. And that place was over there by Cimarron area and up towards Maxwell and the Raton area. But there's a lot of stories about that. Well, they said that back in, I think in 73, 1873 or in that time, it was after they sold Maxwell land grant. Yep. He said that the soldiers were rounding up the Apaches, taking us down to Mescalero. They were trying to combine us because they're too damn lazy to take care of us. So they took soldiers and they rounded us up. So they said the grandmas gave their grandkids away. Way up there from Cuesta area, Taos area, clear down the valley. So the kids won't suffer, you know. So they won't die of thirst and they won't die of hunger. They cared for their kids that much. So my mom used to say that's how much the grandmas loved their grandkids. And they said, that's how we used to be. We used to be. And they talk about the ascending the Cristo Mountains. They say on the other side of the mountains, that way, is the Red Clan. The Cochcayen, they call it. The Flatlanders. And then up this way, north of Spanish Peaks, were the Mountain Valley people, that was me. Yeah. And they talk about how when there's a lot of people that were all mixed, they go up there when it's rough times, when we're up, no drought or whatever, they go wherever there was food. So one of the grandpas, Ray Tapoyo Sr., told us that his mother was born in the northwest of Denver. Yeah, one time his grandmother, he said one time we were coming back on a plane to Durango, where the plane flew that way, and they flew right over. And he described that. Na kitzitn anado. We call kaigo with this chini. Right? So they already talked about, there was another one, what was that, Clarence? Over here by Colorado Springs, his mother was born. And then my grandmother was born down here by where the Boy Scout camp is. Yeah. So that's right in what they call Okati. In that area, they were kept. The most feared enemies that we had was the Comanches. The Comanches were after our woman, or whatever we had stored away too, like our dry meat, our fruit, and everything. All the berries were dried, and all the different things. Some of it were medicine. And the women had a tattoo. I think there was one family left that I seen here. I think the last one, her name was Grace Maria. It had a tattoo right here. I asked her, the grandma, one time. I was over there with a friend of mine named Spook, and I asked her. I had the guts to ask her, and she said, "Oh, what is that? Ipanyekosin, inik ayekosin, kinabayekosin, see, iseyekosin." See, all it's just like a diploma, she said. She knows how to make buckskin. She knows how to butcher. That is what she. Those are the things that they said. So the Comanches wanted those women, so they have kids off that woman. She would teach her kids. That is what it is. And I had a story my dad told me that was a old lady that came back, come among us, he said. And she said she was captured by the Comanches as a young kid. And he said that she wanted to see one mountain. And she said, before she died, she said, "Bestikoye, he senast ini, she said. I wanted to go to White Flint Mountain, which white people call Perdonal, over there by Abiquiu. So they took her over there, she prayed, and then she went home back to Oklahoma. A lot of things are told that. There's a lot of stories. There's some that said we emerged here, emerged there. I've been to two places. It's where we took shelter. And both places, I went to one place with this young lady's brother, and it was a laboratory over there by Towers. And it was across the Rio Grande. And it was about, I'd say about 9-10 feet round tube. And it was blocked off. And he said that's where we came from. And the other one is a place called by Sierra Grande. And that's one of our sacred mountains too. And that was told the same way that we emerged. We came from the underworld, and we sent different animals. And they talked about the badger went up there, was sent up, and the beaver was sent up, the birds were sent up, and then they said there was water there. And the beaver put a dam back so we could come up. There's a lot of stories they told us. And they say some of them say that they made a ladder to come up with a buffalo horn. That's why the buffalo's horn is curved. Some say they use a sun ray. And then they also talk about how we lived underneath, we're under in the dark. We use sunsos, was like a torch. They had, you could see. There's a lot of stories of that, and of how we came from the underworld. When I was small, they say when you start learning to remember, when I was about 8 or 9, that's what a lot of stories were told to me. He said, we came from up there, from the North Star. And we call that one Sonsonti-ai-e, Ashinkai, Ashinanche, Ashinika. Nina Saniti, Joti, Tayat there, and Toy, not I says that Monster Slayer cleared everything out for us, the bad stuff, so we could be here. And he said to be fruitful, to take care of this place. So that's why we call it Mother Earth. And that's why we call, in the bear dance, we call it up there, when we pray to, Yatakili, which is, I really don't have the correct translation to that. I don't know the English language that good. And it's just like the cosmic forces or the forces of the universe or whatever. But they say, put us here. We cherish the land because they say they put things on the land for us. A lot of people, or the old people, or even our neighbors, call us surface people. We're supposed to, you say they put us everything on the land to sustain life. And that's one of our prayers, they said. He hidden, die out there, but he died in a husband, and he put everything on the land for us. We have ceremony, and there's one going on now. The maiden in that ceremony, her face is painted by this red, yellow, brown stuff. That is her faces. And that is how we connect it with the earth. And we use things from the earth for a lot of stuff. They said that Grandma told a story, Suki. She said that there's the mountains are in a circle. There's sand right here. That resembles our bear dance. That corral and the sand. Why we use that sand is because the great power of that wind pushed it over there. That's why we use the St. Louis Valley. And they call it Sena Yeti. That place, sand dunes, they call it Seha Yeti. Because today you put your tracks on it. And then tomorrow you don't see no tracks. Because the sand takes care of itself. But a lot of people don't know about this one. On the northwest side of the sand dunes, there's a big crater. Probably about 50, 60 feet across. That's where we landed in the St. Louis Valley. Yeah. We used white paint, and a lot of Mancanis or Bilicuanas, they use that for sunscreen now. So we use what they call the magnetic sand or the black sand for ceremonies, because they talk about the North Pole and the South Pole. It's because of that. I don't know how they knew it. That's why we use it in our ceremonies and sand painting. And the one that we use the sand is the one that the great wind, the one with the power. It all goes back to that everything has power. And when everything talked, it goes back to this is that all the vegetation has power, and medicine has power, the river has power, the sun has power, the moon has power, and we call it Ti. And that is what a lot of people call it, different things. And we believe in now and later on after you die, the spirit. That one, a lot of people call it the spirit Mikosh. So us, we came a long ways. We try to be civilized. We try to keep the young people from really moving out of town and moving to the cities. And we try to keep our ceremonies, which we still have, I think 3 good ones, but we have some smaller ones on the side, different blessings. But there's 3 main ceremonies. One of them is Jicarilla, the other one's the bear dance, is Ane, and the one right now is a coming up piece, which we just call Kesta. This is a blessing for the women, mostly. And she has a partner, young brave. But there's a lot of teachings inside that ceremony. But most of it is they lean against each other through life. My mom's mother used to say, "Ti mu chi na say go ye ti." And then she said, 4 trees going to dry up. It's going to be rough, bad times. So the pinyon tree dried up towards Santa Fe, Glorieta, about 15, 16 years ago. So next that dried up is the aspen around Kangalone area, towards Chama, they all dried up. As far as you can see, And now we're in a time where the spruce trees drying up. You look up at the pass, Coombs Pass and Wolf Creek Pass, as far as you can see. It's the last tree to dry up. It says what we people call gah, which the forest people call it one-seed juniper. And when that dries up, we're going to carry all our belongings on our back again. That's what she told me. So it's scary to think about it. We were put on this reservation because my grandpa said that there was a mountain ridge. That ridge right there, you go towards Chama, you can see that ridge. It goes all the way. There's only two gaps. Stone Lake Gap and Ponce Mesa Gap. That is why they put this reservation here. They keep the white people away, and most of the time they call it where people were, how would you say, bootlegging, what they call jaw, bringing booze to the Indians. And at that time they were trading for women too. So the Spanish people did that. And to this day, there was one guy that admitted that he sold that stuff to us. I think he died about 2 years ago, a guy in Chama. But a lot of things that were, while we're here, this is my grandpa and his brothers, no, my dad's brothers, they went to where there's water sources. So my grandpa, anyway, got Lahara, and my grandpa lived to 47 years old. And how he died was he was hunting, and he kept hunting. There was no more deer. That's what my mom said the story goes. But he kept hunting, and he is always coming back wet from here, and he caught pneumonia and died. My dad told me where he was buried at, right in that area where my dad's buried now, and my brothers, my nephew, up at Lahara. So our land to us is very sacred to us. We still believe that all these different things have power. And I want to go back to a deal by the hand. One time we went to a military installation, had a hogback on the other side of Trinidad. There's a handprint with a hand like this. One of the elders I was with, I was carrying Lorraine's grandson, Tyler, and he saw this handprint. He said, Grandpa said, "What does that mean to you?" I said, "No, somebody just drew it by hand." "No," he said, "one of these days, all the five-finger ones are going to put their differences aside and save this planet." A lot of times I think about it, but it all goes back to what old people say. To me, they saw the future already. They knew a lot of things. They knew what's going to come in ahead and how the grandmas talked about it. They say, "You might see it." And they talk about the time back in the 30s when people were hungry. How a lot of people they had no food, and they chewed on their moccasins. And they said they cried themselves to sleep. And back in the area back there, one grandma used to be our neighbor, and she used to tell us stories. And I wanted to record her, but she grabbed my ear right here and said, "Listen with this one. She used to tell me. I tried to put a recorder in, and she told me this one story reminds me of she said, "We're way back there by Tutankaris. Before that step, they call that before you get to that step. So there's a name for that place." And she said they said the scout came back to the group and said there's soldiers coming. And they said there's Mexicans coming. So they took off. So she was making a hole for the kids. put each girl underneath there, put a buckskin on it. That's why we have a cape. They put a cape. The kids had the cape and put it on, covered it with little sand. She did that a couple of them. She said, "Only get up when I tell you to get up." So they said. So the soldiers came right through. Said, anyway, I came back. He said, "Do you know what happened?" He said, I said, "No." I said, "That's why a lot of people are ashamed now that they peed on themselves," he said. "And in our way, you're not supposed to pee on your dress buckskin because you're going to get a yellow spot." She said, to this day, when somebody pee in their bed, they're ashamed, and they carry that the rest of their life, he said. So all these different stories that add up to a lot of things. So all the things they talk about, all the animals that we hunted, one of them was the buffalo. I had a cousin brother, Howard, he used to tell us about it. And he used to sing to it, the buffalo. And we talk about the horn. We use everything from the beard, the horns, to the tail. And it was very sacred to us. Yane is the name of it, buffalo. And he mentioned that why it's so sacred and why it got so much power in the meat was that it ate all kinds of stuff. So we got a lot of power. And my grandma used to say, my mom's mother used to say that a handful of dry meat, this much, when they shred it up, they call it solteti, that much in a drink of water could last you all day. And sometime when they had dry berries, they grind up. That's why when she used to go places or go camping and stuff, most of the time she just got her blanket, a shawl, whatever, put her grinding stone there and tie it together and put it on her back and go. That's the way she used to go. My mom used to get a coffee pot and a frying pan. Go camp. Now, shit, you got cooler, you got a tent, you got a sleeping bag, you got everything. But it all goes back to what Nena Sonny said, that he put everything on top of the earth for us. And when we pray, he say, he died and thank you for everything that to sustain life. That's why they say that Apaches got very few words when they pray. And I believe what they say. All the things that we have to live that was put on this area for us, from medicine plants, edible plants. I was told that from 40 to 60% of our diet was plants. That's why growing up, I learned a lot of plants. After I got a job, I learned more. I think twice as much that I knew before. All the different places, all the rivers, all the name of the shrines, all the praying places, we were taught the 4 direction ceremony, so he won't die. We believe that what was given to us, we use. That's why he said they gave us all kinds of plants. And we were given 12. Now, Kazati is the lucky number. We were given 12 yellow top plants. And the top one is the sunflower. We use that in the ceremony, and I call it different things that we have, different teachings on it. And all the way down to what they call purslane. And we call it Maisozebitja. It got a yellow flower. And all the ones in between. And he gave us everything to exist, to use. And just like they gave us the buffalo, and they gave us the different plants to eat. I start with the springtime. This one, they call it chiba. And I got this one This is last year's, this one. But I got some this year's. But the grandmas told me that's one of the yellow top. He said, there's two plants in springtime racing to go to the top of the ground. It's a chibal. That one comes up. And the one that they race with is the dandelions. The grandmas talk about it. And I asked her, what are you talking about? You're not my young. When we used to be small, she used to say that there's not key to it's not the asnihan tea la with sihan sneini. With sihan sneini. The one that sticks his head up above the ground, talk about. And he said, sometimes this one wins, sometimes this one wins. It goes like this. So that is the one people talk about, the balance of losing and winning. Like that. Everything's in balance. So when you're sick, you're off balance. But this was one of the yellow top plants that we use. I put it on stew, I put it on soup, chicken noodle soup. I put it on this morning I put it on my fried potatoes and buffalo meat. And it's so good. And it smells so good. Let me give you a smell. The correct way to show somebody something is to say you look at it good. You look at it good and you smell it. And then you taste it. So that is using your senses. Right now, you go up to the mountains and it's the top of a high tree there, the top of it. It grows about a foot high now. That's when you get it. And you use it the same thing as the parsley. They call it nishpier. And they put it with dumplings. A lot of people remember it because it's with dumplings. It's nishpier. That's what you're supposed to be looking for now. It's coming out now is the spider bite medicine. And they call it mashchebiches. And that's what's coming out now. This is last year's, but I haven't got this year's. I got the white corn to plant. Blue corn and that white corn, and then there's some other one that's yellow. And they're the ones that grow in when any kind of weather. Blue corn, not dot, and then they call it on not dot. Yeah, they make a totally with it. This is peppermint too. One of the mints. This for tea. This is what they call the ghost bush. This is when it's in the fall time when it's dry, kind of dry. And this is the one they call ghost bush. The English name is thornless horsebush. And it gets a yellow flower in July. This one. But right now, it looks like this. But a lot of people say that's sagebrush. I just ignore them because it's not sagebrush. It's ghost bush. We're talking about berries, dried berries. This is the choke cherries. To dry it, it gets hard as a rock. That's why they got the grinding stone for it. That's what they grind, and then they put it with this is shredded dry buffalo, huh? This one, and ground up choke cherries, or they do the blueberries dry. And I call it, that's what they use. Now a lot of people say it's just like trail mix, but we call it tonseti. And they say a handful like this lasts you all day. But it's true what the old people say. And then you know the haichi there. This one you chew for cold. This is the sumac berry. The Navajos got away with it. They put little sand with it to wash it. Just like when you got no soap you go to the river, you put mud on it and wash it. It's the same thing, same deal. And then you get that stickiness off of it. That's the medicine for diabetes, I was told. They say, what's the opposite of sweet? And I said, sour. These are sour tart. And they dry it and then they grind it. Zettinskonste. Zettinskonste. And then the Navajos, They make a mush with it to this day, because I had one there not too long ago when I went to Shiprock, and they call it chin chin, CHIN, chin chin. That's it. And they put little flour in it to make it kind of like a thick. And they say that you have that for a couple of days, so your system will get back to normal. Our land, where we used to be at, it was from way up north. My grandpa said that they hunted on the west side of Colorado. What they say, there's 3 big flat areas, and through my time, there's 3 big flat areas. I think the lowest one is over there by Fairplay. They said they hunted the buffaloes that drifted over the mountain. My dad's father, my grandpa, they used to go hunting. Before they went to Washington, D.C., they used to hunt buffalo. And he said that he carried 7 arrows in his quiver. 7. And he killed 6 animals. He killed 6 animals. And he says one better is that. I asked why. And my cousin Howard was telling me the story. He said, well, one arrow he saves, he said, in the plains, it's takotskay. Takotskay. I go, instant go die, go, listen, I go, they butcher about noon. So sun's up there, you don't know your direction. So as soon as they kill, he said, the guy puts the arrow this way. That way he's home. So that guy comes noon, and then he says, you don't know the direction, it's right straight up the sun. He said, you look back at the arrow, and it says, that way's home. So somebody told white people how precious the buffalo was. So that's why General Sherman in 1870 gave out free ammo to slaughter all the buffaloes, to get rid of it. The buffalo was so much to us. Or they used the beard as medicine, all the way to the tail. And the tail, they made it, I call it, igrat, is unable. And the other one is hata'ai. So all the things, they used it. And one of the things that they use is buffalo bones. A lot of people don't mention that. They had a choker. They believe that the power of the buffalo, the bones, protect them from getting their throats cut. I talk about this because I promised that I would not die with all my knowledge. I promised my mom. So I made this choker way back when it wasn't cool to be an Indian, back in the 70s. The white man started wearing beads and leather and what they call the hippie era. They also used the power of this abalone shell, which is right here too in my ear. And that one has power. And the power in that is, it keeps the lightning away. And it also reflects black magic. It's like a mirror. So you see that on chokers, on necklaces, and even on shields. You got it, all different things to have it on it. These are hair ties when you have a braid and put it on for young girls. And this is, I was told at White Clan. And then I was told that the Red Clan used the pinkish one or the white one, this one. But they say that they got this one from just below Raton towards Springer, below Springer. That's what the ocean used to be years ago, they said. And that's where they get it. They got this one. But most of it now we trade or we buy it from people. I have this one with a string here to put in my shelter. I put it in my teepee or wherever you camp at. I was told that whoever comes to your camp sees it and he knows that you know something, so he won't mess with you. So I put it in a teepee. As soon as your door is on the other side, so it's right there, so it protects you from lightning. Also, the one that the flower up on top, they call it gumweed in English. It got the yellow top. You tie it up there, so two reasons. One bit so it could not slip because it's kind of sticky where you tie it at, and the other one is keep the lightning away. So they also use the sunflower up there. They use the sunflower to build a fire in the ceremony. A lot of things that they tell us about the water. One of the things we talked about was how they pray for water and make it rain. We do ceremony and we have I think 3 ceremonies that we use different things. We use the pottery bowl, which I mentioned that everything on earth has power. Everything in the universe has power. So this is got power. And when you put rainwater in, spring water, or running water, river water in it, and they have a ceremony after it. They also do the water deal in this one, which was given to us at the beginning of time. They put water in it. They pray for water. I was told that more than this many people are slitching because country death. Kukta kego. Kitati trigo. Koya na yin nislinti. Natagutki, 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 natagutki. Koyoke niti. Hat ona hen indan. Trigo de yel. Koya. Natagi nislinta. The young person who's in that group, the youngest one, it's the one that's still growing. It's the one that throws it up. He says, natagutki, 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 natagutki. You just stay there where the water comes down. And then the grandma used to say, when it starts to rain, don't run for cover. Stand out there and say, hidden. And that's what a lot of people always use that phrase of water is life. They talk about it like that. And then when it's raining, they say, let it rain up in the mountains. Then I'm always asking questions. I asked my dad, why? Because that's where the water runs down to us. And it's kind of shared with us a little bit at a time. And another one, he says, when it starts to rain over here, the wetting sword. And there's some medicine people that blow the rain away. They got the power using the wind and their words. I wanted to mention this one. One of the water sources that we had to collect water with a long time ago. That's the pea bag of the buffalo. And then I wanted to mention my mom's mother's mother, my great grandma, had this tied to her belt. It was around her belt. She said that they gave medicine to people, but they grew up with the teachings. And they said they go like this. That's why you got to leave it round, where it just rolls in and take it a little bit at a time, and not all at once. So there is it. Is it? A lot of people, they boil it and they get it soft. They even use it for arrowheads, they said. And they even use it to make clubs with it because it's so strong, hard. And then they use the power of the buffalo and everything. And a lot of people talk about it. When everything had power, medicine power, and when the land was young. And that's what he said. And they always talked about when everything talked. And it's very scary about that. And that's one of the prophecies that said, and when my mom says, oh, the deer and the elk are going to come to our front door, one of them is going to talk to us. And my dad said, oh, it's already time. He said, they talked to us already. I said, who are you talking about? And he said, Yogi Bear and his friend Boo Boo. So I don't know about this. This is one of the water containers I was talking about. And the other ones is a basket with a inside with the gum. They call it coche. This is one of the baskets that we're made for. A lot of people say that we're named after the basket, but I don't believe that part. Somebody just made up something. This is one of they use horsehair here. They use everything. And a lot of people, we say that people recycle, but nobody gives any credit to the Indians that they recycle. And they put pinon gum inside, and they get a fire, they get a round rock, they put the round rock in there, put the pinon in there, and they go like this, and then the rock and makes the pinon pitch soft, and then it goes to the side, and then after that they do the part here with the pitch, and they use that rock to make it round, and then after a while it's waterproof, and they call that coche. So I use sinew, which I have here. Sinew, this comes from the back of a deer. This is used for everything, to sew the moccasins, to tie the arrowheads on, to twist to make the bowstring, and it's every place where you need a string, this is where it's at. I learned how to tie the arrow from Grandpa Howard. Before the white man came, this was an arrow. I came to a lot of places up in the mountains. I know one place that hasn't been destroyed or touched. I hate to take anybody up there because every time I take somebody someplace, they ruin it. They put graffiti and stuff. And then this is how they straighten the arrows. And that's the Indian sandpaper. Indians straighten it. And that's how you make it nice and slick. And then you put some deer grease or buffalo grease to make it real nice and stays a long time. And then here's when we became civilized, and when the white man took us away from our flint quarries. This is what we made. And then this one, when I was working, they made a camp. One of the elders wanted to make a drum, a traditional drum. So I said, okay, I got a deer hide. Still had hair on him, so he told me to bury it, the hide, in a moist place. So we went out. We went looking for some cottonwood. He said, cottonwood or something that grows along the river, wet wood. He said there's light. So we got it, and then we put it out there. He said, build a big fire. So one of the guys built a big fire, a guy named David Boyle. And then they put the coals on it, on that wood, and start to burn. And throw it away and put some more. Doing good. It went burned pretty good for a while. It went, but that was turned around the same. Put some more hot coals on it, and it finally burned through. And then he got a stick and he tried to get all that black stuff off where he burned at. And then we put this one, cut it out, and then we laced it with that deer hide. And And then he got a deer antler, and he stretched this together every time he pulled it. Use a deer antler to stretch it, and that's how he did it. And I still remember. That's why I keep this remembered of him. That was Howard Vigil, my cousin brother, and the camp was at Lahara Lake. This one is a rib. This comes from a horse. I didn't believe it till when my grandma used to do buckskin. She asked my dad, "Give me a piece of wood, a cedar post, but this big, smooth, with no bark on it, nice and smooth." And I just kept watching her, and then finally I took the hide out that was on the fence and brought it over, and she put it down on that post. Then she put that post up against another tree like this, and then she got on it. She put her weight on that post, and she was scraping that hide with this. It's sharp, but it's not that sharp to cut, just enough. So this is a deer, and this one came from up north. Was a present, and this comes from a caribou. They scrape the hide like this. And that's how a lot of things come about in this area, was trade too. And this is what one of those things that comes from a buffalo bone. Buffalo. You see how thick that bone is. That's where the buffalo beats come from. So this is one of the scrapers too. But you have to be tough. That's why years ago the grandmas were the toughest ones around. That's why people listen to the grandmas, because they're tough. You scrape all day long. And then the last one is, this one comes from a mountain. I call it bighorn sheep. Bighorn sheep. And that is strong medicine. They make that noise, and that is power. And that is why they use the horn too.